Commander Eric Miller pressed his hand against the cold glass of the observation dome. From his position on Aldoria's small moon, he had a perfect view of the diplomatic vessel, Olive Branch, as it approached the meeting point. The ship's sleek white hull gleamed in the light of Aldoria's sun. "They're right on schedule," said Lieutenant Paul Wilson, checking the time display on his wrist. "The Aldorian delegation should be arriving any minute now." Miller nodded, feeling proud of humanity's first official diplomatic mission beyond their solar system. After decades of radio signals and remote communications, Earth was finally going to establish face-to-face relations with the Aldorians, a peaceful and technologically advanced civilization. His eyes drifted to the ship's rear viewing port where he knew Olivia Reyes would be stationed. They had trained together at the academy, and she had been thrilled when selected for this historic mission. "This is why I joined the service," she had told him at her going-away party. "To build bridges, not walls." "Sir," Wilson's voice cracked with sudden alarm. "I'm picking up energy signatures, multiple vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel." Miller spun toward the sensor display just as 3 massive ships appeared in the space around the Olive Branch. Their dark, angular hulls bristled. "With weapon ports, those aren't Aldorian," Miller said, his mouth going dry. "Get me a channel to the Olive Branch now." Before Wilson could respond, bright beams of energy lanced out from the unknown vessels, striking the diplomatic ship with devastating precision. The Olive Branch's shields flared briefly before collapsing. "No!" Miller slammed his fist against the console as the defenseless ship took hit after hit. Ambassador Samantha Green's voice broke through on the emergency channel, filled with static. "This is Ambassador Green of Earth vessel Olive Branch. We are on a peaceful mission. Please cease." Her voice cut off as another blast tore through the ship's communication array. Miller watched in horror as the Olive Branch broke apart, secondary explosions rippling through its structure. The observation dome's automatic systems dimmed the glass as the ship's reactor went critical in a final blinding flash. Then there was nothing but floating debris where Earth's finest diplomats had been moments before. "Sir," Wilson's voice was barely a whisper. "The Aldorian ship just arrived. They're keeping their distance." Miller felt numb as he watched the Aldorian vessel retreat cautiously from the scene. In less than 5 minutes, humanity's grand diplomatic gesture had been reduced to space dust, along with 87 lives, including Ambassador Green and Olivia Reyes. "Record everything," he managed to say. "Earth needs to know what happened, here." 3 hours later, the attacking ship sent a message to all frequencies, identifying themselves as the Vraxian hegemony. Their commander, a sharp-featured alien with gray skin, spoke directly to the recording devices. "The destruction of your vessel was necessary and justified," the Vraxian stated without emotion. "You were trespassing in our sphere of influence. The Aldorians are under our protection, and not free to form alliances without our approval. This is your only warning." The small Earth observation post went into lockdown mode. Miller and Wilson, along with the 3 other crew members, maintained complete silence, hoping the Vraxians wouldn't detect their presence on the moon's surface. "They're lying," said Communications Officer Linda Foster after studying Aldorian transmissions they had intercepted. "The Aldorians have been reaching out to other species for years, trying to break free from Vraxian control. Our diplomatic mission wasn't a threat, it was hope for them." Miller stared at the screen showing the Vraxian ships now in orbit around Aldoria. "They wanted to make an example of us," he said quietly. "They wanted to show what happens to anyone who tries to change the status quo." A sudden alert from their sensors interrupted them. "Commander," Wilson called out, "a small ship is approaching from the planet's surface. It's Aldorian design." The ship landed near their hidden base 2 hours later. Miller met the visitors at the airlock, weapon drawn just in case. The door cycled open to reveal 3 Aldorians, tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and 4-fingered hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We come with great risk," said the leader in carefully practiced English. "I am Telnar, science advisor to our council. We monitored the attack and knew you were here. We must get you safely away before the Vraxians find you." "Why should we trust you?" Miller asked, though he lowered his weapon slightly. Because we too have lost friends to Vraxian violence, Telnar replied. And because I have information about why they really attacked your ship. Admiral William Hayes stood at the view screen in Earth's Defense Headquarters, watching the recorded destruction of the Olive Branch for the 5th time. Around the table sat the members of the United Earth Defense Council, their faces grim. The Vraxians claim this was about territorial rights, said General Karen Lee. But the Eldorian refugees Commander Miller brought back tell a different story. Telnar, now officially the first Eldorian representative on Earth, stepped forward. The Vraxian hegemony has been eliminating potential alliances throughout our sector of space. They target diplomats specifically because the psychological impact is greater. They want species to fear reaching out to one another, Miller added. His face was drawn after the dangerous 2-week journey back to Earth. And it usually works. Most civilizations retreat after such displays. Admiral Hayes turned away from the screen. They don't understand humans very well then. His voice was quiet but firm. We don't retreat when our people are murdered. We demand justice. The Defense Council is pushing for immediate military action, said General Lee. Public opinion supports it. Those were civilians on that ship, Admiral. Hayes shook his head. Rushing in without information would be suicide. The Vraxians clearly have superior firepower and technology. He looked at Miller. What we need is intelligence about their capabilities, their weaknesses. The Eldorians can help with that, Miller said. They've been under Vraxian control for decades. They know their systems, their tactics. Then that's where we start, Hayes decided. Commander Miller, I want you heading up a special intelligence task force working directly with our Eldorian guests. And the Vraxians? General Lee asked. Hayes looked back at the screen, now frozen on the image of the olive branch just before its destruction. We prepare. We gather allies. We develop our capabilities. His eyes hardened. And then we show them exactly what happens when you kill Earth's diplomats. As the meeting ended, Miller found himself standing alone before the memorial wall hastily erected in the headquarters lobby. 87 names with Ambassador Samantha Green and Lieutenant Olivia Reyes among them. He placed his hand against the cold surface, just as he had on the observation dome glass. We'll make this right, he whispered to the names of his fallen friends. I promise you that. 2 months after the destruction of the Olive Branch, Commander Eric Miller stood in the newly established Eldorian embassy on Earth. Dark circles under his eyes showed his lack of sleep as he reviewed intelligence reports. You push yourself too hard, said Telnar, placing a 4-fingered hand on Miller's shoulder. Even human bodies need rest. Miller sighed. Every time I close my eyes, I see the ship exploding. I see Olivia and the others. He pointed to the display showing Vraxian ship movements. And now we know they're planning to do the same to other species. The data from Eldorian intelligence was clear. The Vraxians had targeted 3 other emerging civilizations for similar diplomatic lessons. Each was reaching out beyond their home systems, just as Earth had done. Admiral Hayes wants to see you, said Linda Foster, entering the room with a data tablet. After their return from Eldoria, she had been assigned to the Joint Intelligence Team. He says it's urgent. Admiral Hayes stood before a large star map in his office. Next to him was a woman with short black hair and a captain's uniform. She turned as Miller entered. Commander Miller, meet Captain Nicole Carter of the warship Retribution, Hayes said. Captain Carter, this is the man who brought us the Eldorian intelligence. They shook hands briefly. Miller had heard of Carter, one of the youngest ship captains in Earth's fleet, with a reputation for unconventional thinking. We're sending Captain Carter on a mission, Hayes explained, pointing to 3 star systems on the map. The Nebulans, the Crestians, and the Volari. All 3 are on the Vraxian target list. You're going to warn them, Miller said, understanding immediately. Carter nodded. More than that. We're going to offer them an alliance. The Vraxians are strong because they keep everyone else weak and separate. We're going to change that. Hayes brought up images of Earth's fleet. The ships were being modified, their hulls reinforced with new plating. The Aldorians have shared their shield technology with us. It's being installed on all our vessels. These were exploration ships, Miller observed. Now they're being turned into warships. Each one renamed after the Olive Branch crew, Carter added quietly. The Samantha Green, the Olivia Reyes, the Ben Santos. The Vraxians will face the people they murdered. Miller felt a chill run through him, followed by a sense of grim satisfaction. You'll be joining Captain Carter's mission, Hayes told him. You have first-hand experience with both the Vraxians and the Aldorians. That makes you invaluable to this effort. Miller looked at the star map, at the vast distances between Earth and the three target civilizations. The Vraxians will try to stop us. They'll try, Carter said with quiet confidence. But this time, we'll be ready for them. The Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nebulan system. The ship was larger than the Olive Branch had been, and now bristled with weapon systems adapted from Aldorian designs. Scans show no Vraxian presence in the system yet, reported the sensor officer. But they can't be far behind us. Their spy network is extensive. Miller stood on the bridge beside Captain Carter, watching as she directed her crew with calm efficiency. 4 Aldorian technical advisors worked at auxiliary stations monitoring the new systems they had helped install. Opening communications with the Nebulan Defense Fleet, said Communications Officer Frank Butler. They're responding. The main screen lit up with the image of a Nebulan commander. The species had evolved in the dense fog of their homeworld, with large eyes and skin that changed color with their emotions. Currently, the commander's skin showed patches of cautious yellow. This is Captain Nicole Carter of the Earth vessel Retribution, Carter said clearly. We come with an urgent warning and a proposal for your people. The conversation that followed was tense. The Nebulans had already detected increased Vraxian activity near their borders. When Miller shared the intelligence about planned attacks, on their diplomats, their skin turned a deep blue of alarm. The Vraxians believe that destroying diplomatic missions will frighten younger species into isolation, Miller explained. They've used this tactic for centuries. Why would Earth risk helping us, the Nebulan commander asked. You have already suffered losses. Because we won't let them do to others what they did to our friends, Carter answered simply. And because, together we have a chance to stop them. Alone, none of us do. 3 weeks later, the Retribution arrived at Earth, with representatives from all 3 civilizations on board. The mission had succeeded beyond expectations. Each species had their own reasons to fear the Vraxians, and their own unique technologies, to contribute to an alliance. In the main conference room of Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Hayes welcomed the delegates. Today marks the beginning of the Alliance of Free Species, he announced. Together we will defend our right to determine our own futures. Miller watched from the side of the room as the various representatives signed the Alliance Treaty. The Nebulans contributed advanced cloaking technology. The Crestians offered their revolutionary shield systems. The Volari brought weapons innovations that could penetrate Vraxian defenses. We've done it, Carter said, coming to stand beside him. 4 months ago, we were alone and outmatched. Now we have allies. It's still not going to be easy, Miller cautioned. The Vraxians have been the dominant power in this sector for centuries. They won't give that up without a fight. That's why we need this, Carter replied, handing him a data tablet showing the specs for a newly commissioned vessel. The Remembrance. It will be the flagship of our combined fleet. Hayes wants me to captain it, and he wants you as my intelligence officer. Miller studied the ship's details. It incorporated technology from all 4 Alliance species. It was larger than any vessel Earth had ever built. We've learned something important, Miller said after a moment. Something the Vraxians never expected. What's that? When you kill our friends, Miller said, looking up at the memorial wall, where the names of the Olive Branch crew were displayed. You don't frighten us. You unite us. Outside the windows of the conference room, Earth's shipyards glowed with activity day and night. The fleet was growing. Warships were rising from a planet that had only wanted peaceful contact. The name painted on the hull of each vessel was a promise. Earth had not forgotten, and justice was coming. As the Alliance delegates continued their discussions, news arrived from the border monitoring stations. Vraxian fleet movements had increased. They had discovered what Earth was doing and were marshaling their forces. "They're afraid," Telner observed, joining Miller at the window. "They've never faced a united opposition before." Miller nodded. "They should be afraid. They thought they were teaching us a lesson when they destroyed the olive branch." His eyes hardened as he watched another warship take shape in the orbital docks. "Now it's our turn to teach them one." The flagship Remembrance hung in space at the edge of Earth's solar system. Its hull gleamed with the silvery sheen of combined Earth-Eldorian alloys, while Crestian shield emitters dotted its surface. Captain Nicole Carter stood on the bridge, watching as the rest of the fleet assembled around them. 37 ships, said Commander Eric Miller, coming to stand beside her. "Not as many as the Vraxians have, but each one carrying technologies they've never faced before." Carter nodded. "And crews who know exactly what they're fighting for." She gestured to a display showing the names painted on each vessel's hull, the fallen crew of the Olive Branch. 6 months had passed since the diplomatic massacre. 6 months of intense preparation, training, and planning. Now, the alliance of free species was ready to move from defense to a carefully targeted offense. "Admiral Hayes is coming aboard," announced Communications Officer Frank Butler. "His shuttle has just left Earth." "This is it then," Miller said quietly. Once Hayes gives the final orders, "We're at war," Admiral Hayes addressed the gathered captains in the Remembrance's main briefing room. Representatives from all 4 Alliance species were present, either in person or via secure holographic link. "Our mission is precise and limited," Hayes explained, bringing up a star map showing Vraxian military installations. "We will disable the forward operating bases they use to threaten Alliance worlds. We will avoid civilian targets completely." "Some would call for more aggressive action," said General Karen Lee, "after what they did to our people." Hayes shook, his head firmly. "We are not the Vraxians. We do not target diplomats or civilians. We are fighting to stop their aggression, not to become what we hate." He turned to Miller. "Commander, brief everyone on the intelligence you've gathered." Miller stepped forward. "The Vraxian military has 3 key weaknesses we can exploit. First, their command structure is rigid and hierarchical. They don't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. Second, their communications network depends on relay stations that can be disrupted. And third, they've never faced a multi-species force with coordinated tactics." He brought up detailed schematics of Vraxian ships and bases. "Each of our species brings something the Vraxians don't expect. Nebulan cloaking technology, Crestian shields, Volari weapons, and Earth's tactical flexibility." Captain Carter took over. "We've developed a new command structure that integrates officers from all Alliance species. Each ship will have mixed crews, allowing us to use all our technologies effectively together." As the briefing continued, Miller studied the faces around him. Humans with their varied expressions, Eldorians with their thoughtful blue features, Nebulans whose skin shifted colors with their emotions, Crestians with their crystalline growths that seemed to catch every light, and Volari, whose 4 eyes blinked independently as they processed information. Different in appearance, united in purpose. The training exercises revealed challenges no one had anticipated. Cultural differences led to misunderstandings. Technical systems from different worlds sometimes interfered with each other, and always there was the pressure of time. Intelligence reports showed the Vraxians gathering their forces. After a particularly difficult simulation that ended in virtual destruction of the fleet, tempers flared in the debriefing room. "The Nebulan cloaking system failed because your Earth sensors overloaded it," accused the Nebulan commander, his skin flushing angry red. "And your pilots broke formation at the first sign of trouble," countered an Earth captain. Miller watched the arguments escalate until Captain Carter slammed her hand down on the table. "Enough," she shouted. "This is exactly what the Vraxians want, division among their enemies. We have to be better than this." The room fell silent. Carter looked around at the assembled officers. "Tomorrow is the 6-month anniversary of the Olive Branch Massacre," she said more quietly. "I propose we hold a joint memorial service. Each species can honor the fallen in their own tradition, together." The memorial service became a turning point for the Alliance. In the Remembrance's large assembly hall, each species shared their rituals for honoring the dead. The Eldorians sang crystal tones that made the air vibrate. The Nebulans released clouds of colored vapor that formed patterns in the air. The Crestians grew small memorial crystals that caught the light. The Volari performed a solemn 4-part harmony. And the humans read the names of those lost on the olive branch, lighting a candle for each. Miller found himself standing next to Telnar as the ceremony concluded. "On my world," Telnar said softly, "we believe that those who die for a worthy cause never truly leave us. Their energy joins with the universe and strengthens those who continue their work." Miller thought about Olivia Reyes and the others. "I'd like to believe that." After the service, the training exercises improved dramatically. The crews worked together with new understanding and respect. The ships moved in coordinated patterns that became increasingly complex and effective. Admiral Hayes watched from the Remembrance's observation deck as the fleet executed a particularly difficult maneuver flawlessly. "They're ready," he told Carter and Miller. "The question is, are we in time?" The alarm klaxons woke Miller from a rare deep sleep. He rushed to the bridge to find Carter already there, reviewing an urgent transmission. "Vraxian agents infiltrated the lunar base," she explained grimly. "They were after our deployment plans." "Did they get them?" Miller asked, suddenly wide awake. "No. Security stopped them, but not before they transmitted some information back to their fleet." Carter brought up the sensor data. "The Vraxians are moving earlier than we expected. They're heading for the Volari system with a major battle group." Admiral Hayes joined them on the bridge, having transferred from his headquarters ship. "Then, we move now," he decided. "All ships to battle stations. We'll meet them at Volari." As the Alliance fleet prepared for faster-than-light jump, Miller worked with his intelligence team to analyze the information recovered from the Vraxian agents. One data file caught his attention. "Sir," he called to Hayes, "you need to see this." The file contained a Vraxian military council assessment of the Alliance. The final line made Hayes raise his eyebrows in surprise. "Humans represent the greatest concern," it read. "Unlike other species we have encountered, they do not retreat when faced with overwhelming force or devastating loss. Instead, they adapt, unite with others, and return stronger. This behavioral pattern has no precedent in our tactical database." Hayes looked up at Carter and Miller. "They don't understand us at all, do they?" "No, sir," Miller replied. "And that's our biggest advantage." Outside the viewports, the stars stretched and blurred as the Remembrance led the Alliance fleet into faster-than-light travel. On every ship, crews checked weapons and shields. In the Intelligence Center, analysts finalized target data. Medical teams prepared for casualties. They were bringing justice for their friends. And the Vraxians would never see them coming. The Remembrance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Volari system, followed by the rest of the Alliance fleet. Captain Nicole Carter immediately activated the tactical display. "Vraxian battle group detected," reported the Nebulan sensor operator, her skin pulsing with alert patterns. 12 heavy warships approaching the third planet. They haven't spotted us yet." Commander Eric Miller studied the formation of the Vraxian ships. They were arranged in a standard attack pattern, the same one used against peaceful targets, dozens of times before. "They're expecting to find a helpless world," Miller said. "Not a prepared fleet." Carter nodded, her face set with determination. "Let's use that to our advantage." She opened a channel to all Alliance ships. "This is Captain Carter. Execute Operation Swift Justice. Nebulan vessels. Activate cloaking and move to position Alpha. Crestian ships, prepare shield bubbles for the Volari defense platforms. Earth vessels form up on the Remembrance. We strike in 3 minutes." Admiral Hayes stood at the back of the bridge, letting Carter run the operation. This was her plan, developed during countless simulations. He turned to Miller. Are the communication disruptors ready? Yes, sir, Miller replied. On your command. We can cut the Vraxians off from their central network. Hayes checked the time. Wait until they realize they're under attack. Let them try to call for help first. That's when it will hurt them most. The Vraxian commander of the battle group was reviewing the final approach to the Volari homeworld when his tactical officer shouted in alarm. Multiple vessels appearing from nowhere, they're right on top of us. The cloaked Nebulan ships had positioned themselves perfectly, appearing just meters from the Vraxian vessels. Before the Vraxians could react, precisely targeted energy beams lanced out, striking weapon emplacements and engine controls. 3 Vraxian ships were disabled in the first 20 seconds. Return fire, ordered the Vraxian commander. Call for reinforcements. But as his communications officer attempted to send the distress call, Miller activated the Alliance's secret weapon. Throughout the system, hidden devices came online, flooding Vraxian communication frequencies with interference patterns developed from Eldorian research. Communications are down, reported the panicked Vraxian officer. We're cut off from the network. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Carter watched as the Alliance ships executed their carefully planned attack. Earth vessels targeted the still-functional Vraxian warships, using Volari weapon technology to penetrate their shields at specific points. Christian vessels provided defensive cover, their unique shield systems absorbing energy that would have crippled conventional ships. The Vraxians are attempting to regroup, Miller observed, but they're confused by their inability to communicate. Carter nodded. Now for Phase 2. All Earth ships, execute flanking maneuver Beta. Eldorian vessels, target their secondary power systems. The battle unfolded like a dance, with Alliance ships moving in perfect coordination, while the Vraxians struggled to organize an effective defense. Without their rigid command structure and network support, individual Vraxian captains made conflicting decisions, sometimes firing on empty space where cloaked Nebulan ships had been moments before. We've disabled 7 of their vessels, reported the tactical officer. Minimal casualties on our side. Miller was about to congratulate Carter when emergency alerts blared across the bridge. Vraxian reinforcements, called out the sensor operator. A second battle group just dropped out of FTL. 8 more warships, including a command carrier. Hayes moved forward. They must have been close enough to detect the battle even without communications. The new Vraxian force opened fire immediately, focusing on the Earth vessels. 2 smaller Alliance ships took direct hits, their shields flaring bright before failing. Christian vessels provide emergency shield coverage, Carter ordered. Get our damaged ships out of the line of fire. Miller's eyes widened as he studied the new Vraxian command carrier. Captain Admiral, that's the dominant will. It's High Commander Drax's flagship. Hayes and Carter exchanged a meaningful look. Drax was the architect of the Olive Branch massacre. All ships, Hayes said, taking over the communication channel. Focus fire on the Vraxian flanking vessels. Isolate the command carrier. High Commander Drax watched with growing rage as his supposedly easy victory turned into a coordinated attack, unlike anything the Vraxians had faced before. These primitives weren't supposed to have this level of technology or tactical skill. Target the human vessels first, he ordered. They are the core of this alliance. His gunners focused their fire on the Remembrance, hitting it with repeated energy blasts. The ship shuddered under the impact, but its hybrid shield system held. Return fire, Carter commanded, her voice steady despite the bridge shaking around her. Target their main weapons array, the Remembrance's advanced Volari. Cannons fired, slicing through the command carrier's forward defenses and disabling its primary weapons. Simultaneously, cloaked Nebulan ships appeared behind the Vraxian reinforcements, crippling their engines with surgical precision. They're losing mobility, Miller reported. The command carrier is isolated. Carter studied the tactical display. The Vraxian command carrier hung in space, most of its systems disabled, while the rest of the Vraxian fleet was either crippled or engaged with other Alliance vessels. We have Drax, she said quietly. The one who ordered the attack on the Olive Branch. Hayes nodded. The primary architect of the massacre. The tactical officer looked up expectantly. weapons locked on their reactor core. One shot would destroy the entire ship. Carter closed her eyes briefly, thinking of the names painted on the hull of her own vessel, the friends they had lost. Then she opened her eyes with firm resolve. No. Target their remaining engine controls and life support regulators. Disable them completely, but keep the ship intact. She turned to Hayes. We're not here to massacre, we're here for justice. Hayes nodded his approval. Prepare boarding teams. We're taking that ship, and High Commander Drax into custody. Hours later, Miller stood in the detention area of the Remembrance, looking through the security field at High Commander Drax. The Vraxian officer sat rigidly on the provided bench, his gray features set in an expression of disdain. You should have destroyed my ship, Drax said. Capturing me will only provoke a stronger response from the hegemony. Maybe, Miller agreed. But we're not like you. We don't destroy ships carrying helpless people. Drax's expression shifted slightly. Your diplomatic vessel was a legitimate military target. You were interfering in hegemony affairs. We were establishing peaceful communication, Miller countered, just as the Volari were trying to do, just as the Nebulans and Crestians did before them. Weakness, Drax sneered. Peace is for the weak. Miller stepped closer to the field. Then why are you sitting in our brig while we control your fleet? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Vraxian's face. You made a fatal mistake, Miller continued. You thought killing our diplomats would frighten us away. Instead, you united us with every species you've ever threatened. He gestured to the corridor where officers from all 4 Alliance species walked together. Now we're coming for your military headquarters, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. As Miller turned to leave, Drax called after him. This small victory means nothing. The hegemony has stood for centuries. Miller paused, at the door. So did the olive branch until you destroyed it. Now it's your turn to fall. 3 weeks after capturing High Commander Drax, the Alliance fleet gathered at the edge of Vraxian space. Intelligence from the captured command carrier had revealed the location of the Vraxian military headquarters, a massive space station, orbiting a gas giant in the Keldor system. Commander Eric Miller stood on the bridge of the Remembrance beside Captain Nicole Carter as they reviewed the final attack plan. The intelligence center behind them buzzed with activity as officers from all 4 species worked together. The Vraxian High Command is still on the station, Miller confirmed. They refused to evacuate even after losing contact with Drax. Their pride wouldn't let them. Admiral Hayes nodded. Then this ends today. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, prepare for the jump to Keldor. Remember our mission. We're here for justice, not revenge. Civilian targets remain off limits. The High Command and their military infrastructure are our only objectives. The Alliance fleet, now grown to 67 ships with the addition of recently completed vessels, vanished into faster-than-light travel. The Vraxian military headquarters erupted in chaos as the Alliance fleet appeared. Unlike the battle at Volari, there was no element of surprise. The Vraxians had been expecting an attack, but they hadn't expected the scale and coordination they now faced. All ships, execute attack pattern justice, ordered Carter. The Alliance fleet split into precisely coordinated groups, each targeting specific sections of the Vraxian defenses. Earth vessels led the main assault, their hulls bearing the names of the Olive Branch crew. Aldorian ships targeted communication arrays. Nebulan vessels slipped past defensive lines under cloak. Crestian ships formed a protective screen, and Volari gunships disabled weapon emplacements with surgical precision. In the Remembrance's tactical center, Miller directed the flow of information, ensuring all Alliance ships had up-to-date targeting data. On the main viewer, he watched as the carefully planned operation unfolded. The Vraxian defense fleet is breaking formation, reported the tactical officer. They're falling back to secondary positions. Maintain pressure, Hayes instructed. Don't give them time to regroup. The battle raged for nearly an hour. Alliance ships moved with perfect coordination, while the Vraxian defenders struggled against technologies they had never encountered combined in such ways. "Sir," called out the Nebulan sensor operator. A small vessel is leaving the headquarters station. It's using a cloaking device, but our sensors can detect it. Miller studied the readings. It's the Vraxian High Command. They're trying to escape. Carter turned to Hayes. Your orders, Admiral? Intercept, but do not destroy, Hayes replied firmly. This ends with justice, not executions. 1 week later, Miller stood in the newly converted diplomatic chamber aboard the Remembrance. The room that had once been a secondary cargo bay now served a very different purpose. Along one wall hung a memorial to the Olive Branch crew. Beneath it stood the captured members of the Vraxian High Command, flanked by guards from all 4 Alliance species. Admiral Hayes addressed the assembled representatives. Today, we establish the Interstellar Tribunal for Justice. These leaders will answer for their crimes against peaceful civilizations. He gestured to the Vraxian commanders. They ordered the destruction of diplomatic vessels and the murder of innocent envoys. Now they will face judgment under laws recognized by all our peoples. The lead Vraxian sneered. You should have killed us when you had the chance. Our empire has ruled this sector for centuries. Our people will not accept this humiliation. Your people weren't given a choice, Miller pointed out. Most Vraxian civilians don't even know what their military has been doing. They will now. If on cue, communications officers activated channels that broadcast the proceedings to every world in Vraxian space. For the first time, ordinary Vraxians would see the evidence of their leaders' crimes. Miller stepped forward to the memorial wall. His fingers traced the name of Lieutenant Olivia Reyes. They killed our friends, he said quietly. And now justice has been delivered. Captain Carter joined him by the wall. What happens next? Hayes smiled slightly. The Remembrance will be recommissioned as a diplomatic vessel, with defensive capabilities, of course. And me? Miller asked. You'll be training the next generation of intelligence officers, Hayes told him. Teaching them that understanding other cultures is as important as tracking their fleet movements. Outside the viewports, Earth vessels moved in formation with ships from 3 other worlds. The names on their hulls no longer served only as reminders of loss, but as guides for the future. They killed our friends, Carter said, echoing Miller's words. And we responded not by becoming like them, but by building something they never imagined possible. Miller nodded. That's the best justice of all.